First thing I have to do today is apologize because I'm not in the normal clothing and hat that I would wear for these videos. But the reason for this is that I'm actually on holiday. I'm in Brittany in northern France, and I feel as if I've been welcomed here in the sense that the skies look exactly as they would back home in Wales. And I think this is maybe no accident because there is a very strong link between Wales and Brittany. Now, one of the things I've discovered these last number of months is that the link I have always understood to have existed is far stronger than I could have imagined, in the sense that there is a connection between the Celtic Christianity of Britain and that which runs down through Cornwall, the Channel Islands, and even to this place. So here I stand in Dol, which is a town in Brittany, and behind me is the cathedral named for St Samson. Now, St Samson has a story that will draw together much of what we've explored together so far. Wonderfully, it's the story of a dragon that links this part of the world with the part of the world I am now able to call home. So I spoke to you in front of a cathedral very recently. In the episode, The Patron Saint of Cardiff, I was telling you a little bit about St Teilo. Now here I am standing in front of another cathedral. This is the Cathedral of Dol-de-Bretagne, named for St Samson. St Samson was a contemporary of and companion to St Teilo. Now, the link between South Wales and Brittany here in northern France is incredible. Having said that, I do have to set the record straight. When I was talking to you about St Teilo, I mentioned a few things that were in fact incorrect. In both cases, I will give myself the benefit of the doubt and say they were simply slips of the tongue. But in the first instance, I mentioned Llanwyd Major, which is what we call it in English, but Llanwyd Fawr, which when I really meant Llandailo Fawr, a settlement in South Wales founded by St Teilo. On another occasion, I spoke of the saint as having belonged to the wrong century when I really meant the 6th century. Nonetheless, I managed to get something of his story across, and today we're going to delve a bit deeper into that story, but not talk about St Teilo alone, rather draw on his story side by side with the story of another great saint of South Wales, St Samson. St Samson, like St Teilo, was born in South Wales, but unlike St Teilo, became one of the 7 founder saints of Brittany. Now this links the development of Christianity in South Wales to the development of Christianity here in this part of France. One of his companions as the 7 founder saints of Brittany was St Pattern, and you will have heard of him when we were at Llandaff Cathedral last, and we talked about St Pattern, St David, and St Teilo having gone off to Jerusalem for ordination at the hands of the Patriarch of Jerusalem. He ended up dying at around the age of 80, and the cathedral here, in which I now stand, is named for him to this day. This is the Cathedral of St Samson of Dol. Behind me is the baptistry, and I don't know actually how old that font is, although I will try to inspect it more closely and see if we can determine an age. it is quite different to many of the fonts that we find in other places of worship, insofar as it appears to be four-sided as opposed to eight-sided. Now we can determine a lot by that, not least of which would be the representation of the four evangelists. In contrast, so many fonts that are eight-sided represent the eighth day, the day of resurrection, and of course an appropriate place for new birth into the Christian life, into participation in the life of Christ, the resurrected life, the life of eternity, the life of the eighth day. So St. Samson, in his young life, had a reputation for quite remarkable asceticism, to the point where he, although he had started his studies at Llandaff, he actually left that place because he felt it wasn't disciplined enough. And he went on then to Caldy Island, another place that we will visit together in a future episode. That said, he stayed in Caldy Island for a good few years, becoming the abbot of the monastery there, before then moving on to Ireland, from Ireland then to Cornwall, from Cornwall to Guernsey, and finally from Guernsey in the Channel Islands to here in Brittany, where he founded this see in Dol. Our St. Samson's story is not that dissimilar to his Old Testament namesake, insofar as Samson in the Old Testament had to live a life of asceticism in order to maintain his God-given strength, while St. Samson left Llandaff for Caldy Island precisely because he felt the discipline there was not strong enough, and this led him to even reject alcohol, which I think that in 6th century Wales, never mind today, would have been an incredible feat, and one that made him stand out among his contemporaries. At some point between leaving Caldy Island, St. Samson was ordained bishop by St. Duffrig. And there really is a great deal to say about him, except that we will continue to encounter him through the stories of other saints that we explore as we make our journey around Britain. In the meantime, his story brings us back to that of St. Teilo. What I didn't say about St. Teilo is that he was born in South Wales somewhere around Tenby. Now, he lived until about the year 560, and not before becoming the Bishop of Llandaff and building the first church there. As I said, he also founded the community of Teilo in Carmarthenshire. So he was educated primarily at a place called Whitland, also in Carmarthenshire, and his teachers included St. Duffrig, who had ordained St. Samson, and also St. Paulinus of Wales. And of course, together with St. David and St. Paddan, he had traveled out to Jerusalem, where he was ordained bishop by the Patriarch of Jerusalem. But I want to jump ahead a few years, because I want to draw together the stories of St. Teilo and St. Samson. So, while this whole installment is about the links between South Wales and Brittany in France, they really take on a concrete form in the next bit of our tale. For at some point in St. Teilo's ministry, the plague of Justinian was sweeping around the whole Mediterranean world and reached as far as Britain. And in the midst of this, St. Teilo, together with a number of monks, left Wales for a time and came down here to Brittany, where he met up with St. Samson. Now, somewhere around Dol is a grove of fruit trees, which are said to have been planted by Samson and Teilo. But more than that, what I found remarkable, considering the land from which both men, both St. Teilo and St. Samson, emerged, was the fact that St. Teilo was requested to take care of a dragon problem. a dragon was afflicting the lands here in Brittany, and a local king asked him if he would please take care of it. Now, not only did St. Teilo take care of the dragon problem by defeating it, he took that dragon and chained him to a rock in the sea, whence the dragon was never seen or heard from again. For instance, this is significant because St. Teilo was able, by faith, to wrestle with and defeat a dragon. These are the kinds of things that we associate with mythical saints out there. Somebody like, for example, St. George. I've heard English complain that St. George is the patron saint of their country, when in fact he had very little to do with it. But in the case of Teilo, we have a dragon slayer or a dragon tamer who undertook his miraculous fight not only close to home, but he's a dragon tamer that entered the annals of Breton mythology, which makes him no mere, if I can use that word, no mere local Welsh saint, but rather a saint of renown, a saint who perhaps the people of Brittany think of as being from afar, somebody from out there, whereas we know that he is very local and very dear. But the second aspect of the dragon story is that it links St. Teilo to the King Arthur story. So who was this figure that asked St. Teilo to rid his land of the problem dragon? Well, it was King Budic II, and he himself has a strong link to South Wales. According to one story, at some point in King Budic's reign, he was forced to flee to Wales, and it was there that he ended up marrying St. Teilo's sister. But there are other stories as well, one of which, recorded by Geoffrey of Monmouth, the Welsh historian, in his History of the Kings of Britain, has King Budic marrying the sister of Uther Pendragon. Now, who is Uther Pendragon but the very father of King Arthur himself? So I've brought you now to the menhir de Dol. It's standing in a place called the Champ de Dol, just outside of the village that we were in a few moments ago. And I'll continue telling the story of King Budic II and how it is he becomes a link between St. Teilo and the story of King Arthur. So we've learned that King Budic asked St. Teilo to rid his land of this problematic dragon. But there's more to his story, and it's the rest of the story that helps us understand the link between St. Teilo and even the story of King Arthur. And this is because King Budic II, of one of the regions here in Brittany, went to South Wales. He was forced to flee for some reason. And there are some who say that when in South Wales, he married the sister of St. Teilo, and there are others who say he married the sister of King Uther Pendragon. Now, those of you already in the know will be aware that King Uther was the father of King Arthur, which would in turn make King Budic King Arthur's uncle. Now, whether Budic married St. Teilo's sister or King Uther Pendragon's sister doesn't really matter, because what it does is to link the two stories, to draw them together in a way that makes the empirical history of British Christianity and the mythological history come together to dovetail and really turn it into something, breathtaking and mystical, even, dare I say it, magical. So the patron saint of Cardiff is somehow related to King Budic II of Brittany. And at his request, he defeats the dragon. He chains it to a stone in the sea, but it links St Teilo inextricably to the Arthurian legendarium. Ultimately, the Orthodox faith of the 6th century Welsh saints, whether in Wales itself or in Cornwall or here in Brittany in modern day France, including both St Teilo and St Samson, binds these two lands tightly together, as well as such stories as those of King Arthur. And it attests, I think, to the truly indigenous nature of Orthodox Christianity in relation to the Celtic peoples, to the Roman peoples, and ultimately, as we'll see in future episodes, to the Saxons that ended up following in their stead.